Hi everyone, it's Ren here, Renaud here, welcome to my room. In this quick video I wanted to return to uh, a topic that I think is quite useful, especially for maybe younger people who are asking themselves about whether or not they might be INFJ. And this is the topic regarding the J-ness of INFJs, and specifically INFJs being the least J-type. I've made a video about this in the past, but I think it is useful to make one again and to rehearse this idea, which I think is a true and important idea. Because for a long time I was convinced that I was a P-type, and I think this delayed my identifying my type for quite a while before I managed to settle on it when I discovered the study of the functions and started exploring the functions a bit better. So essentially, why do I argue that INFJ is the least J-type? Well, mainly because I think when I say J-type, understand me correctly, or understand what I mean by this. I don't mean that INFJs are the least J-type, literally, because that doesn't really mean anything. You know, a J-type versus a P-type, it just means that the types relate to the extroversion-introversion relationship of the functions differently. So that's just an objective trait of types and their function stack, and there's no like more J, less J. But I mean in the collective consciousness that J-types are usually associated with order and control of their environment, whereas P-types are more associated with freedom, improvisation, open world, open structure, rather than structuring, control, order. So J-types would be more strict and tight in regard to that, whereas P-types would be presumably more loose. But when you look into the matter in this way, and this is a view that's promoted by a lot of websites that offer tests via the questions that they ask, you realize that really, functionally speaking, what is very J in this regard are functions of extroverted thinking, TE, because it's about order, right? Or it's about control once about environment, maybe even more so than order. SI, because that's about order and structure. And I would say that besides TE and SI, which are the quintessentially J functions, again, from this perspective on J as understood in the collective consciousness. The third, which is the more technically correct view, is that J-types extrovert judgment function rather than a perception function. And so they extrovert FE or TE in their first or second slot. And that's the reason why INFJs are J-types, because they extrovert FE. They have FE in their second slot, which makes them Js. However, if you compare with any other type of the J category, you'll notice that first of all you have the T dominant, and because T and SI would be the quintessentially J functions, well, you have the SI dominance and the T dominance. Notice that if you're an SI dominant, you're necessarily a J, because if you're an SI dominant, this means that you're an introverted perceiver dominant, meaning that you're going to be an extroverted judger auxiliary, and therefore a J. So ISFJ, ISTJ. So ISTJs are going to presumably look more J because they have both SI and T, just in the same way that ESTJs are presumably going to be even more J than ENTJs because they have T and SI. So according to this view, ESTJs and ISTJs would be the most quintessentially J-types. But then you have ISFJs, SI dominance. You have ENTJs, TE dominance. You have INTJs, TE auxiliaries. And so where are we at this point? We have INTJs, more J than INFJs because they use T. ENTJs, they use T. ISFJs, they use SI. ISTJs, they use SI. Okay? Well, you also have ENFJs. And the thing about ENFJs is that they do not use a lot of SI or a lot of TE, but they use FE in their primary function. So they're dominant extroverted judgers. So they're going to be more J than INFJs as well. And the same applies to ESFJs. And of course, we have ESTJs, which I think I forgot to mention. T dominance, SI, auxiliary. And so you can see that in this J category, you basically have all the different types that are either extroverted judgers, dominant, so more J by definition, or SI users, or T users. But INFJs are none of these. They just happen to be J because they're not extroverted judger dominant, they're only auxiliary, and that's not via TE, and they don't use SI, that's via FE. Not just that, but SI is often a weak point for the INFJ. TE is often a weak point for the INFJ as well. So imagine that you have SI and TE that are the most quintessentially J functions, and the INFJ happens to just be quite weak in those two most of the time. Hence, it's very far from uncommon for someone who thinks they are a P-type to actually be an INFJ. And that was for the little reminder. Okay? So hope that was useful for those who didn't know about this relationship between the different functions. Of course, it was also my opinion having to do with what I call the quintessentially J function. So you may agree, you may disagree. What is your perspective on the question? Let me know down below in the comments. Enjoy the rest of your weekends, and I will see you soon. Ciao.